Speedrunners are far too familiar with reset buttons. Speedrunners reset for days, weeks, or months to achieve their goal of a new personal best. This approach to speedrunning, although conventional, is unavailing and dysfunctional. Let me propose a solution. To create breakthroughs and achieve a seamless personal best, focus on skill acquisition through meta learning, direct practice, and drills. The speedrunner's desire to achieve a personal best, or in some cases a world record, has an exhilarating implication. To seek a personal best is to seek improvement. To seek a world record is to seek mastery. A personal best evinces your newfound proficiency. A world record evinces your newfound dominance. Making improvement the priority turns a personal best from a fortuitous occurrence into a certainty, a medal to be claimed, not found. Mindless resets lead to stunted growth, frustration, and burnout. To find buried treasure, you would not dig up every beach, explore every cave, or turn over every rock. You would follow a treasure map. Meta learning. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Isaac Newton. Meta learning is learning how to learn. It's learning the best improvement method in a given subject or skill. The authors Scott Young and Tim Ferriss have written a lot about this concept, promoting its usefulness in business and personal growth. Meta learning is an abstract concept, so to better explain and exemplify it, let's examine the language learning process. Most people speak at least one language, but only a few know how to learn a new one. There are many questions a new language learner might have. Should I study with vocabulary, phrases, pronunciation, or grammar? Should I learn with flashcards, online tests, apps, games, or books? Is it best to learn with a college class, an online course, or all by myself? Do I need to practice speaking, writing, or reading the most? Should I travel to another country, hire a tutor, or talk with people online? How do I know if what I'm currently doing is working, or how long it will take before I see any progress? Confusion, anxiety, and doubt plague the inexperienced language learner's mind. However, for the hyper-polyglot Richard Simcott, learning a new language is as ordinary as another day at the office. Richard Simcott has spent his life learning languages, and after many years and dozens of languages, he's refined his language learning process. He's become an expert. Meta learning is a valuable concept because it applies to all subjects and skills. So much so that people can make a living sharing their knowledge and paths to mastery. Coaches and experts discover the best improvement methods on their journeys and can teach them to you. If properly guided by an expert or coach, your path to mastery will be simplified, optimized, and easy to follow. You won't always be able to find an expert, but even alone, you can use two meta learning strategies to streamline your improvement journey: deconstruction and map building. Deconstruction is separating a skill or subject into sub-skills and subcomponents. Deconstruction fosters a smoother learning process by adding clarity. For example, if studying an academic subject like math or physics, it may help to deconstruct that subject into facts, concepts, and procedures. Facts to memorize, concepts to understand, and procedures to practice. If learning a skill, like speedrunning or performance magic, it may help to deconstruct that skill based on time slices or sub-skills. You can deconstruct Super Mario 64 into stages or stars. You can deconstruct Celeste into chapters or sections. And you can deconstruct performance magic into trick knowledge, patter, showmanship, improvisation, confidence, and sleight of hand. All deconstruction, even if simple, aids the learning process. Map building is writing your goal in detail, then drawing a map of how to get there. If you don't know your destination, chances are you'll never reach it. Once you've decided on your goal, draw a map right away. Write your goal in detail. Write down all the reasons you want it. Write how you'll feel once you achieve it. Write out all the things you want to do to get there. When the map is finished, begin to follow it. As you follow your map and pursue your goal, learn as much as possible. Learn from your own experiences and the experiences of former experts. Try to glean their paths to mastery. As you progress and learn more, constantly go back and update your map. Map building is a continuous process. Your map will slowly expand and eventually contain everything. Your goal, every sub-skill and subcomponent to master, pitfalls to avoid, what you're practicing, when you're practicing, how you're practicing, and so on. A ship does not leave the harbor without a destination and detailed notes of how to get there unless it plans on sinking. Unless you plan on sinking, draw a map. Now, anyone can apply meta learning with deconstruction and map building, but the statistician E.F. Schumacher says, an ounce of practice is generally worth more than a ton of theory. And he's right. Direct practice is an unerring way to improve. Direct practice. For the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them. Aristotle. To illustrate the importance of direct practice, let me tell you the story of a man named Jason. Jason was an intelligent, hard-working young man who, in 2008, graduated from college with a degree in architecture. Jason then submitted his resume and college portfolio to dozens of architecture firms, but not one company called him back. Jason was fresh out of school, lacking work experience, broke in New York City, and living through a financial crisis. Remember, this was 2008, but he was determined to be an architect. Over the next 4 months, Jason worked vehemently to build his new portfolio. Jason's new projects were indistinguishable from those at major architecture firms. He was using their industry standard software, following their work style, and mirroring their logging habits. It was hard. College had taught him the theories behind being an architect, but now Jason had to follow company restrictions, construction codes, and government regulations. It took many long days. But when Jason showed his new portfolio to the 2 biggest architecture firms in New York City, he was offered a job by both. Jason's story highlights the importance of direct practice. Many people build the wrong portfolios in life. Instead of conversing with native speakers to learn a language, you play games on a language app. Instead of presenting a speech in front of an audience to improve your public speaking, you read Public Speaking for Dummies. Instead of playing countless Overwatch games to become a better gamer, you watch streamers play. No matter how fun a game is, informative a book is, or entertaining a streamer is, it isn't direct practice. Knowledge can guide you, but it's not a replacement. People commonly avoid direct practice because it's uncomfortable and frustrating. I mean, why face your inabilities when you can just read a book instead? Indirect learning certainly has its place, but you must understand and act on the importance of direct practice.
But Mr. Carpenter, I thought we were gonna talk about speedrunning.
Yeah, okay, fine. Let's talk about speedrunning. In speedrunning, our goal is to complete an objective in the game as fast as possible. The perfect way to practice a speedrun is a no reset run. Many runners hate no reset runs, but there's no better way to practice than to play the entire run without resetting. Sometimes, however, there are parts of a speedrun that are tricky or far too difficult to practice only during a no reset run. If facing a hurdle, implement drills. Drills. The more I practice, the luckier I get. Gary Player. Drilling is practicing a subskill or subcomponent in isolation. When learning, you will always struggle with something. Identify your weakest point, isolate it, and train it intensely. Our brain's learning process makes drilling essential. When learning something, the neurons in your frontal cortex become incredibly active, but our brains have limited strength. When doing several new things at once, your focus will drag and your learning will slow. If you instead isolate one subskill and fiercely train it, your brain will offload that task to another part of the brain, freeing up neurons in your frontal cortex to focus on something else. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you no longer have to think about how to do it. You just know. It becomes a part of your muscle memory. That's the point of drilling. The hyperdash in Celeste provides a perfect speedrunning example. The hyperdash is an advanced movement technique that requires a couple of well-timed inputs. It's used across Celeste to perform strategies, or strats, that would be impossible without it. No matter how well you know Celeste as a game or as a speedrun, you will struggle if you can't comfortably hyperdash. However, if you practice the hyperdash in isolation, repeatedly and intensely, eventually you won't have to think about it at all. You'll just be riding your bike, and you'll be able to implement all those strats that come from your newfound muscle memory. If direct practice is training in an environment as close to the real thing as possible, then drilling is a pull in the opposite direction. You can resolve the tension between direct practice and drills when you see them as two essential parts in a learning cycle. Without direct practice, the progress you make during drills may never transfer over or apply to the full thing. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. However, if you only do direct practice, proportionally trickier subskills will impair your progress. The solution is the direct, then drill cycle. Start by doing direct practice, i.e. a no reset run, until you identify your weakest point. Then isolate that subskill and train it relentlessly. Afterward, do more direct practice to implement what you drilled into the overall skill. Repeat this process forever. Now, forever is a long time. So you're bound to run into some issues eventually. You might not be able to identify your weakest point, or the drills you're doing might not be working at all. In these cases, try asking your peers for help, designing different drills, or practicing differently. Conclusion. There are 2 ways to be great at mathematics. The first is to be smarter than everybody else. The second is to be stupider than everybody else, but persistent. Ralbot. You will achieve anything you decide, so long as you know what you want and work towards it every day. You may not achieve your goal tomorrow, next week, next month, or even next year. But if you persist, success will be yours. A ship's captain cannot see the port he's sailing towards for 99% of his voyage, but he knows it's there. If you want a new personal best or to get a world record, you must improve. You want to improve. Change your mindset and focus on skill acquisition over everything else. Use meta learning to deconstruct your speedrun and build a map towards your goal, and follow the direct, then drill cycle of practice day in and day out. Soon enough, you'll find yourself at the top of a mountain you never dreamed you could reach.